Ardex recently reached out to me and offered to send me their brand new set of colored pencils, and I was actually pretty excited to try these because I honestly have not tried a huge variety of different colored pencils. I've pretty much only used my Prismacolor colored pencils, and then kind of recently I started buying Faber-Castell Polychromos pencils, so I was really excited to see what their pencils were like, especially since they are brand new. This is something that they pretty much just launched, so very excited to get my hands on these guys. Ardex also tends to have very pretty products when it comes to the actual aesthetic of what the item looks like, and they have these really cute just metallic printed like stars and dots on the side of these pencils, which I thought was such a cute touch. The set itself comes in a case that holds them as well as a case that displays them while you're working with these pencils. It has a foam base on the inside that holds everything together, and it is set up so it's like 2 attached rows, 1 divider, and then 2 more attached rows. So the pencils themselves can't get like super shifted out of place unless you have a lot of them actually outside of the packaging. This was the first time I've actually really seen colored pencils stored in a way that they're not laying down flat, and there's definitely pros and cons to it. I think in doing it this way, it's not as wide of a package because Prismacolor and Faber-Castell specifically, when they do large sets of colored pencils, they display them all flat, so they tend to be pretty wide packages or like stacked layers of flat pencils, and that makes the packaging a lot bigger. However, when it came to working with these pencils in this little display, it became difficult to actually reach for and see the pencils that were sharpened more because they were pushed further into the actual case itself. So it was just harder to grab them. It's definitely not the worst thing in the world. I personally realized because after I did my swatches and once I was actually drawing with these colored pencils, I ended up just leaving a bunch of them out of the container. And so what was left in the foam base at the bottom, they were like sliding all over the place. It was pretty messy, so personally for me, what I ended up just doing is ripping out the foam base at the bottom, just because it was very convenient for me to work with these colored pencils with having like a dozen or so of them laying out at a time, and it was more effort than it's worth to like take the time to meticulously put them back in the exact slot that they're supposed to go to. Not even in a sense of like keeping it where they're in order of the color, but just making sure that they all fit in slots. It got very overwhelming once I had all the pencils out on my desk, so in the end I did rip out the foam base and now I just have them sitting in the box. They don't sit upright or anything, but for me it was just easier doing it that way. As far as the actual swatching for these colored pencils go, one of the big things, and probably like the main thing that I was kind of upset with when it came to these pencils, is that on some of the barrels, the color is so off from what the actual color of the lead itself is. It's just a printed color on the barrel. I've shown several examples. As I was doing my swatching, I tried to show on camera each and every individual one that was like super far off from the color you expected it to be. It's certainly not the most debilitating thing because you can just look at the actual lead for the pencil and be like, oh, this yellow isn't more of like a warm creamy yellow, it's like a highlighter yellow. But I've never really experienced that happen with colored pencils, so it is dissatisfying and definitely makes it harder to select a pencil when you have to go, oh, like I don't have to just look at the barrel of the colored pencil, I also have to double check and make sure the lead is actually the color that I'm looking for. When it came to actually doing illustrations with these colored pencils, I have been majorly hyperfixating on a show called Heartstopper recently. I watched it on Netflix and I absolutely fell in love with it, and then I read the comics and then I read the books, and I've seen the show like almost 4 times now, and yeah, I'm really hard hyperfixating on it. I highly recommend it. If you have not seen it, it is on Netflix. It is wonderful. It's like a very nice little lighthearted coming of age story about 2 gay characters and a lot of queer characters in general. There's a trans character played by an actual trans actress. A lot of the cast themselves are gay in some way, shape, and form, and it is beautiful. It is so good. The show itself is absolutely amazing, but if you want to go the extra mile and read the webcomic, it goes farther than the show does currently because they just came out with season 1, and there's also 3 novels based off of the universe, so highly recommend. I've been super hyperfixating on it. It has been everything for me for like the past couple of weeks now since I first watched it, so I cannot recommend it enough. It is probably my favorite piece of content that I've ever consumed. Easily my favorite show, easily my favorite webcomic. So I decided to do illustrations from the show. I decided to do just a couple of screenshots because I personally don't normally draw like live action fan art ever at all. Never. So for me, it was a lot easier to go off of a screen cap where I was just drawing directly from a reference than to try to capture especially a specific like character's likeness and like making them look like the actor themselves at the same time, but also stylizing it myself where it's like, this is definitely that character, but also it's in my style, like it's a person in my style. It was just very different for me. So I decided to do some screen caps and I went the immensely smart route, and for the first time in my life, I'm using colored pencils on Bristol paper, which is absolutely amazing, let me tell you, because most of the paper that I have, especially when it comes to like sketchbooks and stuff, it's all textured paper because I love textured paper. I love the way it looks, I love the way it works with wet media, and I don't often do just flat like colored pencil only illustrations. Normally when I use colored pencils, I'm doing mixed media, and some of that mixed media is going to be wet media, so I'm going to want to use like a thicker textured paper because I personally prefer textured paper. But knowing that I was going to be using primarily colored pencils, if at all anything else, which in the end I think I used a gel pen on the second illustration for like the little pieces, and then I did use paint pens on this as well, but there were no like wet mediums, so I was really excited to try this on Bristol paper because I have a very small pad that I received in an upgrade box, and I've only ever done colored pencils on textured paper, so it was such a pleasure to work with these pencils on just smooth Bristol paper. They're very buttery and smooth. I actually really enjoyed working with this colored pencil set. It has a really nice selection of colors itself. Everything is really pretty, and it's just very easy to work with these colored pencils. Throughout the couple of hours that I was working with them, the only things I had to complain about are the foam at the bottom that actually holds the colored pencils in place. It's not the most functional for actually using the colored pencils, and then the thing with the lead being a different color on some pencils as opposed to what the actual barrel looks like, just what's printed on the barrel, it's not my favorite thing in the world. It was really only for like half a dozen colored pencils, so it's definitely not every single thing in this set, but it is quite obnoxious that it's so significantly different, because if you're just going off of the barrel, especially for the yellows, there were some that just looked so warm and sunflowery, but they ended up being pretty much highlighter yellow, so that was my least favorite thing. But those are the only two things that I have to complain about this set. The pencils themselves, they're really nice. They sharpen super easy. I didn't notice a ton of breakage at all in the pencils when I was sharpening them. They are soft core, so they break easier. I'm pretty sure that's how that works with colored pencils because my Prismacolors are breaking every 3 seconds. I explicitly remember when I first got my, I think it was like a 48 set of Prismacolor pencils, I went to sharpen one for the first time, and I ended up, the lead itself on the inside of the pencil, the core was broken so much that I was never able to get an actual sharpened point without a broken piece falling out until I was halfway through sharpening the pencil. So it wasted half of my pencil just because the core was broken. And I know a lot of that is hard to avoid, especially with Prismacolors, because they're getting shipped to places multiple times to be distributed to the public, especially if you're buying them like in a store or something, or even if you're buying them online. Soft cores, to my understanding, break a lot easier than harder cores. But with these pencils in particular, I only noticed one that ended up breaking a couple of times when I was sharpening it, but that's it. Everything else was totally fine, which is really nice to see from softcore colored pencils because my only experience is with the Prismacolors, and although I did use them on and off for a couple of years, I was really inconveniencing to have to lose so much length of the pencil just because the core on the inside is broken and you just keep sharpening, a piece falls out, keep sharpening, a piece falls out. But yeah, I didn't experience that with these pencils. They laid down so nice on this Bristol paper. They were so smooth and easy to blend. They were also pretty easy to lift with erasers, which was nice because there were a couple of instances where either I accidentally colored outside of the line or I laid down a mark I didn't want to or went too dark on certain spots, and I was able to pretty easily lift up the colored pencil, so that was absolutely fantastic. And going back to Heartstopper, because I could genuinely talk about this show for hours and hours. I love it so much and I'm very obsessed with it. I actually ended up randomly stumbling across it. I just wanted something going on in the background while I was drawing, I think is what I was doing. I was just sitting on my couch doing some sketchbook work, and I wanted some background show to watch. Normally, I always fluctuate towards things I've previously watched, just so I don't have to focus as much on it, and I know, for the most part, what's going to happen and what the plot is. But I went on Netflix, which is something I haven't really been doing lately, because Netflix, you know, it's not living its best life right now, and it's not that great of a streaming platform. I still pay for it, but like, I definitely fluctuate towards like HBO Max or Funimation or whatever it may be. But I hopped onto Netflix and it was the first thing that was recommended to me, and I just saw that it was gay, and I was like, you know, I guess I'll watch this. I had never heard of the webcomic before. I had never heard about the show before. So I ended up going in super blind. I did not know anything other than just explicitly the Netflix description of the show. And initially, I wasn't even intending to pay that much attention to it. I was like, you know, it might be good. It might also not be good, because a lot of Netflix originals, especially, like, they do have a lot of good ones, but they also have a lot of bad ones. And especially with Netflix shows and, you know, anything I touch on Netflix, I'm expecting it to be extremely sexualized. Unnecessarily, as always, but that is not the case for this show. It is the opposite of sexualized, which I personally really appreciate, because that's not what I want to consume at all in any way, shape, or form. It is just so sweet and so wholesome and just this very cute romantic show, and like the characters pine after each other for like 3 episodes, and then it's just like really wholesome and cute and precious and very, like, I feel like realistic. And so yeah, it's been everything that's on my mind 24/7 all days. I'm currently watching it through for the 4th time, and then when I do that, I really want to reread the comics, because I ended up buying all of the comics that were currently out, and then I'm trying to get my hands on the novels that are like in the same universe of the series, but it's kind of hard to do that because it's extremely popular online right now, so it's kind of hard to get your hands on them. Thankfully, my local Barnes & Noble had half of the comics that are available, and then I was just able to order the other 2 online, but like, everyone wants them, understandably, because it's absolutely amazing. It is such a good show. It is such a good story. Highly recommend it to anyone. I had so much fun making these pieces, especially with colored pencils, because it's a medium that I don't often work with, especially just being colored pencils. But I really enjoy drawing these, and I'm definitely going to be making more Heartstopper fan art, because I'm hyperfixating so bad right now. But I'm really happy with how these drawings turned out, so I'm going to have them available as prints for my next shop update, which I haven't decided on a date yet. I'm hoping to have it sometime in late this month. I was about to say mid this month, but we're pretty much at mid this month right now. But I'm looking to have it sometime in the later half of this month. I'm kind of waiting to see if one of my Vograce orders will show up before then, because I'd like to be able to launch my shop update as soon as possible, but I'm waiting on something to show up. So just kind of waiting to see if I should just not wait for it to show up and list those items in the following shop update, or if I should be patient and wait until I have all the things I've ordered and do it all at once. So undecided as to when the next shop update's gonna happen for me, but I do know it'll be in the relatively soon future. For sure it's gonna be within the next month, and I'll have all kinds of new stuff on there. I won't have a ton of new print or sticker designs, but I will have new acrylic charms. I will have clear stickers for the first time ever, which I'm very excited about. I'll have a new sticker sheet design. I'll have some wooden charms on there, which is also very, very exciting. This coming shop update that I'm going to have is definitely more focused around outsourced items, just because I've ordered a handful of things from Vograce, and I'm very excited to share them with you guys, because outsourcing stuff is so cool. It's just very fun to be able to have some kind of tangible physical good that's not just a print or a sticker. So I've been having a ton of fun designing all these kinds of things for you guys, and I'm excited to share them with you because I put so much love into them. I'm also going to have new washi tape designs. Oh, very, very excited to start sharing those things with you guys, because I haven't really posted about any of my new products online other than just on Patreon, but I'll start teasing those within the next couple of weeks here. That way you guys can get excited about the shop update with me. If you guys are interested at all in checking out these colored pencils themselves, I'll leave a link in the description box below. Because colored pencils are so new for Arrtx, they currently only have the 72 color set, but I honestly think it is such a good selection of colors. It comes with pretty much everything you can need, and then you can obviously layer colors on top of that. I am excited for the future to see if they ever release any larger sets. I know colored pencils, especially artist grade colored pencils, can be very, very expensive. I bought my first set of my Faber-Castell Polychromos recently, and they were very expensive. So I do think these are a really good deal. They are supposed to be light fast, they're supposed to be artist grade quality. I didn't test any light fastness at all because I do not have the time or patience to do so on my own, but they are supposed to be artist grade quality, so for the price, I think they're a really good deal. So if you are interested, you can check out the link in the description box below. Thank you again to Ardex for sending me these colored pencils. I really enjoyed working with them, and I definitely see myself using them more in the future just because they were very pleasurable to work with. And thank you guys so much for watching my videos as always. I will see you in the next one.